May all that I say and all that I think be in harmony with you, God within me, God beyond me, maker of all things. Amen. Good morning. It is an honor to have the opportunity to lead the service and preach again while Mark is out of town. It just reaffirms how much respect I have for Mark, the knowledge and skill that he puts forth to deliver great sermons weekly. He makes it look so effortless, but believe me, it is not. It is an art. In preparation for my sermon, I read a number of commentaries. They were both helpful and confusing, so I was very thankful when I found the Serendipity Bible that I used years ago when leading a couple of Bible study groups. This edition provided questions for reflection on the passages, which helped with group discussions and reflections. I have to say both groups had great discussions, and we always had a wonderful time. I miss them. But I must say, some of the questions were a bit far-fetched for Bible study. For example, the question regarding the gospel reading for today. The first question says, as a child, who was your favorite ghost, Marley or Casper? I know it's silly, but it gets you thinking. These questions got me thinking of how things might have been on that boat. I imagined the beginning of the trip across the sea to be fairly uneventful. The disciples could have been discussing the events of the past few days. They may even have been joking about, as friends often do. Some of them may even have been taking a nap. But all that changed when the wind and the waves picked up. Some of the disciples were experienced seamen, but some of them were not. Those disciples became increasingly more afraid as the wind and the waves buffeted the boat about, and the experienced seamen could not quell their fears. Soon, the wind blew harder, and the waves grew higher. Now this little boat was full of fear that the wind and the waves would thrash it so much that even those experienced seamen could not hold it steady. Fear that it might even capsize. So what more could happen to them that night? Remember, it was very late. It was the fourth watch, about 3 or 4 in the morning. The disciples saw an apparition walking on the water. It must be a ghost, was the cry from all of them. Fear of a ghost, as well as the storm, had overtaken this boat. But immediately Jesus spoke. Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid. Did they know it was Jesus right away? It was dark. The wind and the waves were raging. Yes, they knew his voice, but could they hear him clearly in all this wind? Could they see him clearly? I don't know if I could. If I was in that dark boat with the wind and the waves, I would surely have thought Jesus was a ghost. Now Peter, who was quick to react, jumps up and says, Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. Jesus said, Come. Peter got out of the boat and started walking on the water. He walked toward Jesus. But when he noticed the strong wind, out of the corner of his eye, he began to sink. Peter cried, "Lord, save me!" Jesus grabbed him as he reached out his hand and caught him, saying, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" When they got into the boat, the waves stopped and the wind ceased. And all those in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you must be the Son of God." I'm reminded of the first time that my son tried to ride his big boy bike after we took his training wheels off. In the morning, he was afraid. He would not let his dad take his hands off the back of the seat as he ran alongside the bike. But after lunch, Eddie gained a little confidence and decided his dad could let go. He headed down the street, and as long as he could see straight ahead, he kept going. But as soon as he looked at his feet on the pedals, he fell off. This happened many times. Ed had to run after him, pick him up, and put him back on the bike, and make sure he tried again. By the end of the day, Eddie had mastered his big board bike. He focused on the street ahead. Focus. Focus, not fear. When the focus of life is with Jesus, the sea is calm and peaceful. When I have problems and the focus is on Jesus, I know that his strength helps me. But when I let the problems overtake me and turn my focus away from Jesus, that's when those problems become overwhelming. And my anxiety and fear is so overwhelming. We all have that in our life. In fact, if you look at what is happening to us today, the nightly news is full of things to be feared. The coronavirus, civil unrest around the world, gun violence, severe weather, all sorts of things. Individually, we have no control over any of these. But if we focus on Jesus, our source of strength, we can persevere. I'm not naive enough to say that by focusing on Jesus, everything will be fine. I know that isn't true. But what is true is that by keeping our focus on Jesus, our source of strength, we are given the strength to weather the storms of life. So when we let life's winds and waves distract us from his strength and we falter, we must remember to reach out and focus on Jesus for strength. And with his strength, we can weather life's storms. And he will carry us through, and we will persevere. Amen.